Welcome, my name is Kevin Dilley. I'm from Explora Science Museum, and we're going to look at using apps, actually creating apps for products. Okay. So, in Mesa, we were saying earlier, right, that some of the projects you're required to have some sort of coding, so that could be through various different ways. So it could be website, it could be using a microcontroller, or it could be using an app. And so we're going to look at how to create some very simple apps. We're not going to make anything too fancy, something fairly basic. And we're going to use a platform called AppLab, which is a few things of reasons why I'm having show you guys this one. One is that it's free. It's always free. It's a web-based thing, so you don't have to download some software or something like that to be able to create with it. And it's through code.org. So code.org is a pretty robust organization that has lots of different resources. And some of you, or some schools might be using code.org already. And so the nice thing about it is that there's lots of different tutorials and resources out there around AppLab to be able to create different types of apps. So I'm going to take you through some basics of using AppLab, just so you can get a little bit familiar with it. We'll just create a very basic type of app that you can use. With that said, if you have a laptop, feel free to go ahead and use your laptop to follow along. If not, still be able to follow along on this maybe not so great projector, but maybe you will. But we'll be follow along on this, so at least you'll be able to see the type of how AppLab works and how you could be able to use it with your students for them to be able to create different types of projects with it. Anita had also been talking during the lunchtime talk about different professional development programs that Mesa does throughout the year. So I've done a number of those. Those are online. So I do some of those workshops for New Mexico Mesa. And so I've done ones on AppLab before creating apps. So I'll do a quick little introduction here, but there might be the opportunity later on for a virtual workshop as well, getting a little more in depth and maybe kind of if you start playing around with it, you'll have more questions that I can answer. Okay. And for those who were in the last session, I've also done workshops, online workshops there for New Mexico Mesa on different microcontrollers as well. So sometimes it's hard when you're first introduced to these things, you don't know what the questions to ask. You don't know what's, but hopefully, I can be a resource for you if you have questions in the future as well. So, if you wouldn't mind, if you do have a laptop, go ahead and go to code.org. And you might have to sign on, create a free account. You can log on with, I believe you can log on with Google account or Microsoft account or something like that to be able to log into code.org. So go ahead and go to code.org and create an account. And once you create an account, it'll probably bring you to my dashboard. So one thing about code.org is that if you log in as a teacher, right, then it allows you to be able to create a classroom in code.org. Or if you are, if your students log in, then you could assign them to your classroom in code.org, and so you would be able to see the different projects that they're working on in AppLab or any of the other things in code.org they're working on. So that is nice that you would be able to pull up what they're working on and see some of the projects they're doing, so if they have questions or something like that, you'd be able to refer to their action. I'll give you just another 30 seconds or so to get your account created. If you don't have one already, you're logged in. If you do have one. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, if you are next to somebody who does have a laptop, you mind just sharing it, let them look over your shoulder so that you can see some of this. hopefully folks have been able to create an account. So the first thing we're going to do is if you click on my dashboard, so at the very top there's my dashboard, course catalog, projects, all these different things. So I'm going to click on my dashboard just so you can see. So if you wanted to add a new, create a class, this is where you would do it as in a teacher account, right? So you can add a classroom section. You can see here I have some different classrooms that I have that I've been at different schools and stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to look at App Lab. So if you go to New Project, which is in the top right next to your name, there should be a drop-down menu that says New Project, and there's the option there in the drop-down menu for App Lab. Okay. So let's click on App Lab, and it's going to bring up our workspace here. Okay. So let me just orient you a little bit. I'm so sorry that you cannot read any of the stuff on here. I'm trying to focus this. This is about. Alright. So what you'll notice here is that several different things. So just the layout here. Over on the left side here, this is our simulator. You'll look and see it looks like a phone screen, right? So when we're creating our app, this is where we'll be able to see what it's going to look like. This is kind of our simulation of it. In the middle is our menu, our toolbox of different menus and things. So at the top there are different categories that we can choose, and then inside of that category there are different blocks that we'll be able to use. And on the right here, this is our workspace. This is where we're going to be doing our coding for it or other parts of creating our app. Now there are three different views that we can see of it. So there's the code view, the design view, and the data view. You'll notice that there are three different buttons that we can touch there to be able to switch between them. So right now we're in the code view. Let's go to the design view. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to design kind of what the page of our app is going to look like, the front page of our app is, okay? So if I click on design there, at the top left, and now it shows us some different elements that we can add to our app here. So in our toolbox, we see buttons and labels and drop-down menus and other things like that that we can add to it. So let's create a very simple type of app here where we'll do one that's like a soundboard, okay? So we'll have some different things on the screen that we can click on, and when we click on it, it's gonna make a sound, okay? So that'll just be our first part, okay? So first thing we'll do is let's go ahead and add a label. So this one, the ABC, it's the label. We'll just put it, drag it across, and we'll see that it says text. And we're gonna title this, we're gonna make it say soundboard. And so instead of like clicking on the element itself, you'll notice if I'm over here in the kind of simulator part and click on it, nothing's happening. What you're going to do is you're going to click on it just to select that object, and if you label over it or hover over it, you'll see that it says the ID of it, so it's the location of it, and also the ID. This one's called label 1. And if I go over to my workspace here, we'll see that this is the ID of label 1, and this is the text that's in that. So let's change that text. We have to do it over the workspace, and I'm just going to call it soundboard. Soundboard. And we also notice that over here in the workspace, these are the properties of that text. And I can change the properties of it, right? I can change the text color here. So right here, there's options. If I click on the black next to it, I can choose a different color. So maybe I'll make this, I'll make mine blue. And I can change the font size of it. So I'm going to make the size here instead of 13, maybe I'll make it bigger. And let's see, there we go, it's getting bigger. Here's my soundboard. Okay, so feel free to play around with your text of it. I'm so sorry about the screen.
No worries.
So go ahead and have your title. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is let's create a button. Okay. And I'm going to drag a button over, and let me just drop it in here. Okay. this button, let's change it so that instead of it saying button, we're gonna make it say something else. So again, I'm gonna come over here to the workspace with the properties. I'm not changing the ID of it, right? We'll just leave this button on. I'm gonna change the text on it. Okay, so instead of button, maybe I'll make it say, what animal should I make? How about horse? Horse, sure. Okay. And I can change the background color of my button if I want to, right? So I'll make it green. Green looks good to me. All right. I made it horse. Yeah. Make it. And maybe I'll do another one. I'll make another button. I'll grab another button. And actually, instead of dragging this one over, because notice if I drag it over, it creates this one with this different color and stuff. I don't want that. I want it to be the same color as the other one. So I'm going to get rid of this one. If I just drag this back to the workspace, it'll do delete it. But if I click on the horse one, and notice over here in the properties, there's the option to delete it over here on the far right, or duplicate. I'm going to do duplicate. And so I've duplicated it, but now I'm going to give it a different name or a different text on it. So it's of course how about, oh, I don't know, monkey. How about monkey? All right. So now I've got my first page, and it's got two buttons on it: monkey and horse. And so now what I want to do is I want to look at figure out what happens when I press that button. Okay. So for this, I've designed my screen. I've been in the design mode, right? And so I've laid stuff out how I want. Oh, let's do one more thing. Let's change one more thing. Let's change the background color. So instead of clicking onto one of these different elements like the soundboard, the horse, the monkey, just click on the background. Okay. And again, over in the properties, we can change the things. We could make it a picture in the background, or we could do background color. So I'm going to change the background color here, and I'll make it yellowish or tan. There we go. So there's my layout, the design of my app. Okay. And now I'm going to go to the code section here. Okay. So if I click on the code mode, okay. So code is on the top left there. Okay. We're on design. Now we're going to be in the code mode. And we're going to, you can see there's lots of different things here in the toolbox. We're going to use the UI controls, the user interface controls to start with. Okay? So the user interface is just that, like how does the user of it, how do they work with it? So let's do this one, this top block here that says on event. Okay? I'm going to grab this one and drag it over on event. And the ID here, this first drop-down menu, I'm going to do on event, and notice if I click on it, it has some different things that I could choose. There's button 1, button 3 in this case, because I had button 2 and I deleted it. Label 1 and screen 1. So those are the 4 different things that I have, right? I've got my screen here, I've got this text here, this is label 1, horse is button 1, and monkey is button 2. And if you don't know what a thing is, you can just move your cursor over it, and it'll show you what the ID of that element is. Okay? You can also change the name of the element if you want to, so that the ID, so that it makes more sense to you. I'll just leave them here. I'm going to say button 1, which is my horse one, and then click. Right? So when I click button 1, I want it to do something. And what I want it to do is if I scroll down here, where is it? If I scroll down a little bit, there's one that says, where's it? Play sound. Play sound. Okay, and I'm going to drag that inside there. So it says, on the event, button 1 to click, I'm going to play a sound. Okay. And now it's just the default sound. Let me click on this though. If I click on the default, or go to the drop down of the default sound there, it gives me an option to choose. So I'm going to choose, and there's a sound library that App Lab has. You can choose a sound from it. So we'll just go back to this, and I know it's hard to see on the screen now. But I've done play sound. So I found the one that says play sound, I dragged it over here, and it says play sound, and then there's sound default.mp3. Next to it is an arrow, a drop down arrow. Click on that, and there's option to choose. I'm going to choose an animal, and I think, is there a horse in here? Oh, I hear somebody speaking horse. There's my horse sound. You can play it to, ooh, there we go. And I'm going to choose it, okay? And so now, that is my code for playing the sound when I click on that button. Okay? Now I'm going to do the same thing for the monkey, but I'm going to choose a monkey sound. Okay? And so I can do on events. In this case, so that's a great question. So let me show you something. So there isn't an option to duplicate in the sense of like if I right click on it or anything like that. The way to duplicate it, if you wanted to duplicate, is you're going to change. So right now, so there's two different ways that we can code here. So this uses JavaScript to code, and we're using blocks to do it. But if I go to the text, so right over here, if I do show text on the far right, it's going to show the text in JavaScript instead of the blocks. And then I could highlight, copy and paste, Control-C, Control-V, and that will give me the new thing. And then if I go back to blocks, then it gives me a duplicate. So that's one way that you can copy something where multiple lines of code is if you go to the text and then copy paste and then go back to the blocks. So text is up here on the top right. Show text.
Oh, yeah.
And so make sure if you did duplicate, we're changing it from button 1 to button, in my case it's button 3. For sound, I'm going to choose, and choose, there's a monkey one, there's a monkey one. But there's also the option to create your own sounds, your own audio. So if you wanted to create your own audio, you would go to choose, and notice there's all the categories, right? You have all these categories to choose. But the sound library, there's also make new sounds. So you can record the sound if you wanted to be able to use it. For my first one, choose, and I'm going to do make new sounds, and I'm going to do record audio. I could upload a file if I wanted to. I could upload music or something like that. But I'm going to make new sounds, I'm going to record audio. And so now,
We have chickens.
once you have your app code there, and we just have two things for it, right? The two buttons. If I wanted to play it, I would go over to my simulator and just click run. And now I want to use my app on my phone, right? Because I want to use my app on my phone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my app with myself. So if I click on share at the top here, it's going to give me several different ways that I can share it, right? So I can copy a link and share it that way. I can send it to a phone, so I can text it to a phone number. So I'm going to text it to myself. All right, so when I just load it onto my phone, so here's my app. Here's my sound. Now here's my app. If I click on monkey, so you can create your app and then share it. So let's go ahead and add to our soundboard. You can see some other things that we might want to add. So let's say I want to add another one for a dog. Okay? But instead of just a button, I want actually a picture of a dog that I would click on for it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to add, so let's go to design again. So again, in the top left here, let's click on design instead of code. Okay? Click on design. And now let's let's add an image. So right here, there's image, okay? Go to image and put it here. And for this, I get to choose what the image is. So right here in the, under properties and workspace, right here, there's an image, and I can choose what the image is, okay? So I can upload an image, I can link to an image, there are some icons that I can choose if I wanted to use any of those types of things. But I wanted to do a link to an image. So actually, I'm going to open up another another page and go. I'm going to search out dog picture. And let's see. Oh, this one's cute. I'm going to go to this one. So I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to right-click on it so I can get. I'm going to copy the image address here. Okay. So I'm going to copy image address. And let's see, it might be the right size. But I'm gonna go back to yeah. And I'm gonna go link to image, and I'm gonna put the URL in here, right? So that was the image that I had submitted, and now there is my cute puppy picture on it. Okay. So you can also, whenever you're searching, if you find an image, like if I had selected this and I went to that website and there was this image that I have here, I could right click on it, or I could open this, this might not be right. So I just want to get the image link. I don't have the whole website, so I would just do the image. I would click on the image and view the image web picture. So I've linked on to it here. So here is my picture of a dog. Okay. And sometimes depending, so if you right click on the image, so here I've got it. If I'm hovering over this picture here, I right click on it, and there is the option copy image address. So we want the address of it, we want the URL linked to it. Okay. So copy image address, and then I pasted that into right here where it's at my option. So I choose linked image, and that's the website. Okay. All right. So now I can do the same thing here. So this is image 1. That's the ID of it, image 1. And so if I go over to code now, so I'm going to go to the code code section, and I'm going to do on event. In this case, the ID. This ID is going to be image 1. And I'm going to give it a sound. Nice sound. So now I can run it and
I can believe when it doesn't.
And this app that I've been creating, I'm kind of creating it live. So my my one that I had downloaded before, if I just reload it, it should update with whatever new I had on that I had created on there, right? So my app that I had sent to myself earlier, that same link is this. It's going to be updating live. So once I make changes in my app, it's going to show up on the app here. All right. So let's see about, I know some people are having some problems with that on their phones, and I'm not sure why. I'll look into it in just a little bit. But let's add one more thing to our soundboard. So let's have it so that instead of just, so right now our app is just a one-page, one-screen app. Okay? And on apps, we're going to use multiple screens maybe, right? So you click on something, it takes you to a new, kind of a new screen, a new page to your app. So let's have it so that when we click on a picture, it takes us to another screen and does something. Okay. So I'm going to do one. I'm going to do a button again, and so I'm going to go to design. So make sure we are in the design mode up here in the top left. And I'm going to add a button. and I drag it over and notice that, actually, yeah. And I'm gonna have this one be cat. And instead of when I play cat, when I press cat, instead of it playing the sound right there, I want it to go to like another page and have a picture of a cat, play the cat. So for that, we're gonna have to design a new screen now, okay? So right above our screen, you see that it says screen 1 right up there, and a drop-down menu. I'm gonna click on that drop-down menu and say new screen. Okay. And so now I have screen 2. And I can click on that drop-down menu and go back and forth between screen 1 and screen 2. So right above there's where screen 1 and screen 2. Okay, so screen 2, I'm going to add a picture. I'll add a cat picture maybe. Actually, how about this? I'm going to do the background image is going to be my cat picture. Okay, so I'm just going to click on the background here. Okay, so I'm just clicking on the background, and in the properties here, there's an option for an image. And I'm going to choose, and I need to find a picture of a cat now. Go search for a cat. Cat pictures. Okay. Oh, that was cute. Go for that. And I'm going to right click on the image, copy image address, and paste that in here. Link to image. So now, we'll stretch that. But that's okay. All right. And so now I've got another screen with the cat image. And I'm gonna actually put another image here. I'm gonna do this one that says image. I'm gonna grab this thing that says image. I'm gonna put it here, maybe in the bottom. And for this image, I'm gonna have it have an arrow to go back, right? Because if we get to this page, we want to go back to the front page of our soundboard. So for this image, I'm going to choose an image. So again, I click on the image icon there, and go over to properties, choose. I'm going to choose an icon here, okay, instead of a link to an image. And let's see, I'm just going to do, where's a good background? Here's an where's the arrow? There's the arrow. There's this background arrow. There we go. Oh, that's black. Oh, that's all right. I'm going to change icon color to white. Okay. So notice it was black and I had it on top of like a black thing. So I go to icon color and I'm going to change it to white. Okay, so I make it white so that it's easier to see. So now I've got this image too. So now I'm going to do the coding. Now that I have my other page, my other screen, I'm going to do the coding for it. So I'm going to go to code. And for here, actually I'm going to go back to screen 1. And this cat one is button 4. So I'm going to say on event, button 4 split. And then, now instead of play sound, I'm going to say change screen. So there is one that is, where is it? I think it's down towards the bottom. Set screen, that's what it's called. So it's called set screen. And I'm going to do screen 2. Okay. Set screen, it's down towards the bottom. So right here, I'm saying on event, button 4, so minus there, okay. When it's clicked, I'm going to say set screen to screen 2, because that's the second screen that I have. And then the next thing I'm going to say is that on screen 2, oh, and I want it to also play the sound of the cat, right? So I'm going to put in the order that it's going to change the screen and then play the sound. If I did it the other way, it would play the sound and then it would change the screen. So order matters here in coding. I want to show you something else that we can do. So our soundboard app is pretty basic, right? It just shows a couple of the things that we can do on it. One of the really kind of powerful things about apps is that you can input information into things and have things be able to respond to that, for instance. right? So there are, there's a number of things I can show you, but one thing I'm going to show you is about databases, about how we can use data in an app, for example. Okay. Some other things that other things that you could do with the apps here is you could have it that people could kind of populate a database in the app. So maybe you have an input box where they could type in some text, right? And then they'll enter it into it, and then you can pull that back out. I'm not going to get into that today, but one of the things that we'll do is we'll look at how we can use like a spreadsheet of information, a database, and be able to access that in your app. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this app just so I can save it. So I'm going to rename it instead of Untitled Project. So on the top left there, rename it. I'm going to title mine Soundboard. Okay, and save. Alright. And then, so now it's saved. So if I go back to my, code.org, if I'm going to click on code.org here again on the top left, it's going to take me to my, let it load. It should take me to my home page. Hopefully eventually. Okay. Takes me down to my home page. And if I click on projects up here, instead of my dashboard, I click on projects, it'll show all my different projects that I've created. And so if I scroll down here, here are my projects, and there's Soundboard. There's my Soundboard app. So that's where you can access it, and you can come back to it later if you want to. Let's go ahead and I'm going to pull up another app here that I've created. It's my dog app. Okay, so if I click on my dog app, let me just open it up here. And let me just show you what it is first. So I'm just going to go to run. And what this dog app does is it uses a database that has a whole bunch of names of dogs and pictures of dogs, has other information in it. But when I click the button that says show me a dog, it shows the dog and the name of that dog. Okay, if I click on another one, so that's the Bernese Mountain Dog, that's the Burble, and here's a Cardigan Welsh Corgi, and so on. Okay, so this has a database with those things in it. Okay, so I'm going to show you how we can create that really quickly. So let's go to projects. If I go back to projects and go to new project, I'm going to do a new project in App Lab again. So up at the top. New project, App Lab. Let's create a new one here. And so we'll just need three things. Okay? So we're going to add an image, we're going to have a text box, and we're going to have a button. Okay, so just those three things in this. Yep, so new app, so if we go to new project in the top right, new project, and then App Lab, and we'll do new project here. So let's go to design mode, so make sure we're in design mode. Design mode, and let's add an image at the top. Okay, and I'll actually make it just a little bit bigger. Let's put a label underneath that, and I'll make this text box a little bit bigger as well. Corner of it, make it just a little bit bigger there. Okay. And then a button, and I'll put the button at the bottom. So those three things, so an image, a text box, a label, and a button. Okay. So those are the three things that I need. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to add a database that we're going to use. So we've done the design before, we've done code. Let's do data now in the top. Right? Let's get into the data mode. So let's click on data. And there are some already made, there's a data library that we can use. But you can also create your own data here, or you can import your own data. But let's go to the one that says animals here at the top, okay? And there's birds, bee colonies, cats, dogs. I'm gonna click on the dogs one, and I'm gonna import this, okay? So we wanna import the dogs table in here. So I'll import it, and now I have this table in my app, okay, that I can access. So if I click on the dogs table here, then it'll show me what is in that. So it's got this spreadsheet of different things. So it's got the dog name, the breed group, what it's bred for, lifespan, minimum lifespan, maximum lifespan, height, weight, all this stuff, temperament, and then an image of it. So it has all this different information in this, and we can scroll down and see that there are how many different things. There's 105 different dog breeds that are in here with all that information. So that's what's in our. We're going to use that for our app. Okay. So we're going to go to the code part now. So now that we have this dog data set in our app, we're going to be able to use it. So if I go to code, so let's go to the code mode there. Okay. Now we're going to say on event that when I click button 1, which is this button here, and I didn't change the text on it, but we could change the text to say show me a dog or something like that. But when I press that button, I want it to read the record. So if I'm going to have to go to the data toolbox now. So instead of the user interface, we're going to have to go to the data one. It's the new one, the second one there. And we're going to grab this one that says read records. Where is it? It's kind of towards the middle, read records. And I'm going to put it in here. You can see when I put that in there, it brings a whole bunch of other stuff with it, which is great. Because I wouldn't want to remember how to put all that stuff together. But it's going to read the record from this data set. And the data set we're looking at, I'm going to go back to data, is dogs. And notice it's capitalized with the D. The D is capitalized, okay? It's important, case sensitive when I put stuff in. So for code, I'm going to do, instead of my table, read record to my table, I'm going to say dogs with a capital D. Dogs. Okay. And I am going to say that, and I'm going to have to go to variables now. So that's just telling me which thing I want to use. And the other thing I want to do is the things that I want it to read by. Notice here it has some different stuff. The last one it says records, bracket I, bracket dot name. Name is lowercase, but if I come back to my data set, look at dogs, notice that the table here is capitalized name. So I'm going to change that to a capital N. So it's important that we have it have the right it's case sensitive name. And then I'm going to say that when I press that button, it's going to read these records. It's kind of look at the names, and then we want it to choose a random dog. So to do that, I'm going to go to variables. So variable toolbox, it's the purple one there. And I'm going to grab this one that says variable x equals. Put that underneath the blue section here, but inside the green. There. So variable.
Zoom in, I can't see what
Yeah,
you
let's
typed.
see if I can.
I felt like a step behind and then I can't read what you got.
Is that able to see us over there? It's just so here. Just won't get any through.
Yeah, I think that's better. Thank you.
So variable x, and we're going to say we want it to be a random number. So we have to go to the math section. Math section, so the orange one, and grab the random number. And we'll say random number from, put in there, from 1 to, how many were in there? 112? 108? Is that what it was? I think it was 108. Okay. go to 108, from random number from 1 to 108.
Go back.
And then we're gonna set properties. So under user interface controls, we're gonna change what the image is, and we're gonna change what that text is. So I'm gonna do set property. Where is it? Set property is down towards the bottom. Set property. And the property I'm gonna set is I'm gonna change label 1, which is the text here. And I'm gonna say, I'm gonna change the text to be the record's name. So it's gonna be this one right here. So I'm gonna grab this section here. That whole thing. Grab this from here. Grab it. I'm gonna put it inside this box. Oops. Oh, well, let me copy
You can't backspace to get, for it to undo what you're doing, right?
You can do a Command Z to go back.
Command Z?
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, I'm just gonna type it in here. So I'm gonna do, I'm gonna type in, get rid of the quotation marks, record.
Command Z a couple times and things will work it out.
Records, bracket, X, bracket, dot name. Just in conclusion, that you can use data, right? And so if the projects that students are using is one that is, I don't know what it might be, but maybe they're looking at, collecting temperature data or something like that, you'd be able to create an app that would be able to display it in code.